You want me to read that book? What are they doing? Mm-hmm. Do you want me to read the book?
Uh-huh.
Okay. All right. I was fooling around in the back seat of the car with my little brother Rudy. Behave, said my father, but we kept fooling around. Behave, I mean it, said my father. But if they stick you in the back seat of a car for 2 hours, what do they expect? I want you to behave, do you hear me? My mother said, which annoyed me because she's on our side when my father's not around. But when he is, she switches sides. If you don't behave, my father said, I'm going to pull over right here and you can wait by the side of the road till we come and get you. My brother Rudy decided to behave, which let my father notice that I was the only one in the car not behaving. So he parked on the shoulder. I'll give you one more chance, Richard, he said. Either you behave or you get out of this car and you can wait by the side of the road till I come and get you. Who likes to be pushed around? I think I'll wait by the side of the road, I said. Your decision, said my father, and he opened the car door. I got out. A little nervous, but who cares? I didn't know where I was. I looked around. Trees and stuff, a creek, a meadow, a fast food joint no more than a half-mile back. Actually not a bad place to wait if you're going to wait by the side of the road. An hour later, I was kind of used to it. 2 hours later, it was where I wanted to live. Better than my house, at least, where my mother and father were always telling me what to do. 3 hours later, when they came back to get me, my father said, have you waited by the side of the road long enough? I hope you've learned your lesson. Not yet, I said. I think I'd better wait by the side of the road some more. So he drove off with my mother and my brother Rudy. I don't know how long before he came back. I was playing kick rocks in the road, but I know the sun was down behind the fast food joint, and it was started to get chilly. And I was thinking, I'm hungry and I'm cold, and I've waited long enough by the side of the road. At least that's what I was thinking till my father drove up. He was alone this time. He stuck his head out of the window and called to me. Learned your lesson yet, wise guy? The way he said it made me unlearn my lesson when I was right in the middle of learning. So I shook my head and said, I'd better wait a little longer. I'd better wait a little longer. I could use a hamburger and a sweater, though. My father drove off to the fast food joint and came back in a few minutes with a hamburger and a container of milk. He knows I hate milk. Before I could say thank you, because I at least have good manners, he screeched off yelling something I couldn't hear. He came back with my sweater and my mother. Please don't do this to me, Richard, she said. My mother, what was I doing to her? As far as I could see, the only one being done to was me. Right in front of me, there in the dark, my mother and father had a fight. About whose fault it was that I was out there by the side of the road. They get along fine, except when it's about me. I make them fight. You better go home, I said. I'm going to spend the night by the side of the road. That ended the fight. My mother pleaded with me, then she cried. I felt for her, but they're the ones who started this. Not her exactly, but she married him, and if he thought it helped hearing him mutter into the dashboard, crazy kid, makes me sick. All it helped was for me to make my mind that I was going to stay by the side of the road that night, and the next night, and the next. And the next, and the next, and the next. The last thing I heard my mother say when they drove off was, "He'll need a sleeping bag and a pillow." The last thing I heard my father say was, "That way he'll never learn his lesson." It was a shout, really. So, I lived by the side of the road. And you know, I got used to it. I even loved it. My mother brought me a poncho for when it rained and a snowsuit for when it snowed. The creek by the side of the road froze in winter. My mother bought me ice skates. In the summer, I swam in it. My brother Rudy was jealous, so my mother let him swim in the creek with me, and that caused trouble because then Rudy wanted to move in. It was about then that my father talked me into letting him build a little house for me out of aluminum siding. Maybe because he was trying to make it up to me, he made it bigger than I needed, so I had plenty of room. But I didn't let Rudy move in. One of us had to grow up, or stay home and grow up with them. And since living by the side of the road was my idea, why should my little brother get in on a good thing that wasn't even his idea and hurt my parents when they were already hurt enough? They tried not to show that they were hurt, like this was some kind of phase I was going through and they were taking it in their stride. They hired a tutor to give me lessons and homework. I studied hard and got straight A's, not that I cared about the lessons or thought that they would do me much good. I did it to please my parents. Sometimes you have to make concessions. 1,000 cars must have stopped to bother me. The mothers and fathers in the car called me names like selfish. The kids in them wanted to get out and come live with me. I didn't ask for all this, so I dug a tunnel underneath the side of the road, and I moved my little house inside the tunnel. My father tried to help me, but I had my own ideas. My father put it in a generator so I could have lights to read by. My mother bought me a TV, and for Christmas, a computer. I played games on the computer but didn't watch the TV, except sometimes, like if I got sick. There were just too many things to do. I dug extra tunnels and stuck my secret stuff in them. Each tunnel had a different secret. My comic books, superhero collection, thrillers, and a collection of bottles thrown out of the car windows. They were mostly beer, but some were soda, some were wine. Another collection of bubble wrap and old magazines with articles on sports and music and movies. A complete deck of cards, but every card came from a different deck. A colored rubber band collection. A bottle tops from All Nations collection. I was the only person who could decode which tunnel was which. I went outside only when I had to because my mother didn't like my color. I played ball, bouncing it by the side of the road and catching it one-handed. The tunnel was too small for a good game of catch, even by myself. I was getting famous. Some kids liked to come and hang out and play ball with me and show off that they were better than me as ball players, which made them feel okay about not living in a tunnel. You wouldn't believe how many kids were jealous of me. Some even came by to beat me up, but the other kids chased them away. The ones who didn't want to beat me up wanted to move in. When I was 17, a girl came by to meet me. I was getting a little tired of all these girls coming by just because I was older. But this one, Daisy, wasn't such a pest. I don't know why. She asked me the same question every other girl asked. Don't you get lonely living by yourself by the side of the road? Every time I heard that question, which was a lot, I thought, how stupid can you get? But not when she asked it. For the first time, the question made sense. I felt sick with loneliness. She had gray eyes, at least in the tunnel, and white skin that looked like it didn't get outdoors any more than I did. Even if I was sick with loneliness, I wasn't going to tell her. I said, no, I don't get lonely. I never get lonely. But Daisy knew I was lying. The next day, she moved into the tunnel to the left of mine. I meant to kick her out. She really knew how to fix up a tunnel. We started hanging with each other. She moved in her computer. She emailed from her tunnel to mine. I emailed her back. The things we said in email, we never said in person. We got married in a couple of years. Eventually, we had to expand the tunnel to make room for children. Daisy wanted to bring an architect, and I said, no, not in my tunnel. That was our first fight. The person she found wasn't all that bad. We had some good ideas. Some we even used. My father drove by one day. He said, your brother Rudy left us to go to college and join the Navy. Your mother and I are all alone with no children to take care of. So my father and mother built a tunnel next to ours. At first I was worried about it, but actually they turned out to be a great help with our kids, Kevin and Mary Beth. My brother Rudy, when he got out of the Navy, wanted to come live with us. But there wasn't room for any more people in our tunnel. So he went away mad, got rich, got married, and built a bigger, more state-of-the-art tunnel in Seattle. Our whole family visits his family every summer, and you should see us ooh and ah over his advanced technology. His tunnel is like a palace, or half palace, half laboratory. Still, Mom and Dad and Daisy and the kids are glad when the visits run its course and we can head back to our side of the road. One or another of us will spring the trapdoor leading down to our tunnel. The minute the last of us is inside and the trapdoor is closed and we're safe and snug, we always say the same thing. Thank God. The end.